Exactly. Minyo debut.
So, please, what does it mean when they say inflation is down by 9.4%?
Inflation is the measure of the rate at which prices are going up. So when they say inflation has come down to 9.4%, they mean that from last year September to this year September, the rate at which prices were going up has slowed down to 9.4%. That's what it means. If you remember, at the end of 2024, Deloitte forecasts that this year, 2025, if you follow the program that the NPP government was using to bring inflation down, average inflation should be about 11% this year. So this 9.4, if you adjust for the average from the beginning of the year till now, I think it's about 17% average so far. In 2018 and 2019, during the NPP era, we brought inflation down to 7.8 and 7.1. So that's a context within which this current 9.4%, which brings it to an average of about 17% for the year. That's a context within which you should look at it.
What are some of the factors that contribute to
inflation going down?
Yes.
So usually, so there's demand and then there's supply side. So usually the government can do some things to ensure that whatever is causing the increases in price is controlled. Where the government is not able to do that, the Bank of Ghana will come in to suck some money out of the economy using various methods. Once too many people don't have so much money, then they won't demand too many things, which can sometimes make the prices go down. So in this particular instance, there are about 3 reasons. Number one is that, the currency is appreciated. Though now it's going back up, generally it's appreciated. The government has taken a lot of money from our reserves. Last time we spoke, I told you about 4 billion plus. They've dumped it on the market to try and suppress the currency. So it's allowed the currency to appreciate. And because of that, the prices of imported items have, in some cases, come down or stabilized or are not rising that quickly. So imported inflation is tamed. That's one of the main reasons. The second reason is that also on the imported side, as the global platforms, JP Morgan and the rest are reporting, the global inflation itself is also tamed a bit. So the rate at which prices were rising on the world stage following the different crises is also tamed. And then I think the last one is that the Bank of Ghana has sucked a lot of money from the local economy, about 60 billion. You remember the last time when we spoke in the conference room, I was explaining to you that they've sucked about 60 billion from the economy. And so it reduces how much money people have to demand. And that has a way of also slowing down the rate at which prices are going up.
So please, why are food prices so expensive?
That one, you have to look at it from the food and non-food side. So I've already explained to you that imported inflation is tamed, though domestic inflation is still, as in the price of locally manufactured goods is still a bit high. Then if you also look at it from food and non-food, you'll find out that food inflation has not gone down as much as non-food inflation. The reason is that the things that cause food inflation, so how are farmers getting inputs, fertilizers, fuel, for preparing their land, etc., transportation of food items, the margins that market queens, etc., are putting on it, storage problems, all of those ones have still not been solved. So food inflation is not taming as quickly as non-food inflation is taming. So that's why you see that food prices are still not lower per se, despite even the seasonalities.
This is my last question. What are some of the things we can do to make prices cheaper in the economy?
I think generally what all governments have to do is not just about NDC government, but all governments. What all governments have to do is to ensure that, for example, on the domestic side, locally manufactured goods, support is given to industry. Are they getting cheaper electricity? Is labor cost cheaper? Are raw materials cheaper? So that the final product will be cheaper. Then you and I, when we are buying, prices won't be rising that much. And then on the food side, like I mentioned, the things that go into food production and transportation and storage, the governments also have to tackle it so that food inflation also doesn't rise.
Okay, thank you.
We're okay. Hi guys. About 2 weeks ago, when I say we, I mean the Committee on Economy and Development in Parliament, we had a meeting with the Governor of the Central Bank and his deputies and all his technical directors to get first-hand access to some data on the economy. And when we finished, I made a Facebook post in which I said that the Bank of Ghana had sterilized about 60 billion Ghana cedis out of the Ghanaian economy, and that we on the minority side thought that that money will be better used if it goes to the VCTF. Since then, I've got messages from some of you asking, what the heck do I mean by that? So here's an attempt to explain it. So when the rate at which the prices of goods and services is high, that means high inflation, the Bank of Ghana sometimes comes in to try and control inflation. One of the tools that they use is what they call their sterilization toolkit or their sterilization program. Essentially what they do, if I'm to break it down, is that they mop up money from the economy under the assumption that there's too much money in the economy, and so people are outpricing themselves, and that's why prices are going high. So if you mop up the money from the economy and there's very little money in the economy, people can't outprice themselves. So that is a way of controlling inflation by trying to control the demand side. From January till now, the central bank has now admitted, when they appeared before us, that they have mopped up over 60 billion Ghana cedis from the Ghanaian economy, which they consider as excess liquidity. When that money is mopped up and packed up at the central bank, it's not available for demand. And so prices won't rise that quickly and people will not outprice themselves. It's one of the artificial ways of controlling inflation. Our argument from the minority side is that part of that money can be better mobilized into the Venture Capital Trust Fund. What is the Venture Capital Trust Fund? It's a fund that was set up by President Kufuor aimed at mobilizing resources to help young people or Ghanaians who want to do business. So that one is not a loan, it's equity. And that money is made available to the asset management companies and they invest it as equity into businesses. So you have a nice business idea, you go and see the fund management companies, you present a good proposal, and they can invest in it if there's money going to the Venture Capital Trust Fund. So our argument is that instead of sterilizing or mopping up over 60 billion cedis and packing it at the Bank of Ghana so that you are reducing money in the economy to control inflation, there should be a broader and a better strategy to channel part of that money into the Venture Capital Trust Fund, or to enable the Venture Capital Trust Fund attract part of this money that we claim is excess liquidity so that young people like you can get that money as capital to fund your business ideas. Then you don't need a loan from a bank with interest attached to it, but you can get equity investment. The stock exchange itself, total market capitalization, if my numbers are correct, is about 130 something billion. So if you sterilize 62 billion, compare it and see the percentage. We must find some innovative ways by which a bit of that money can be better attracted, maybe even into the stock market, to invest in the productive sectors of the economy so that businesses that are already functioning, they can expand, they can raise more money at zero coupon rates. It's equity money, it's patient capital. With that expansion, we can create more jobs so that more of our young people will get jobs. So that's the context within which the minority made that argument after the meeting with the Bank of Ghana. And we think that it's something that the government should take a lot more seriously than the old economic approach of just sterilizing the money and packing it at the central bank to tame inflation. Eventually, when you release it, inflation will pick up again. And so that's why we...
As we were discussing earlier, what are your thoughts on Nkrumah and this whole day has set aside for his celebration?
I mean, Nkrumah, as I was telling you earlier, is one of the founding fathers of this country. And he did a seminal job in leading the final march to independence. And today, we commemorate his birthday. I like listening to speeches from a lot of our forebears and reading their books as well. So Kwame Nkrumah used to do radio broadcasts a lot. There's a particular broadcast from the 24th of December 1957 where he said something, and that same thing, he repeats it in his book, I Speak of Freedom. And he talks about how we should measure our progress as a country. And he says that we will measure ourselves by the improvement in healthcare of our people, by the number of our children who are going to school, by the quality of education they are getting, by our ability to extend water and electricity to our towns and villages, and by the happiness of our people in the fact that we're able to manage our own affairs. In other words, at any point in time, this is how we should measure our progress. So if we measure and we are not convinced that we are going far enough in these parameters, then in the words of Nkrumah, we are not living up to the promise of independence. And so on a day like this, as we commemorate Nkrumah's birthday, and as I reflect, that is the one that comes back to mind, that if we measure ourselves by even the things that he laid down to be the measure of our progress, are we going as far as we could have come?
Doctor, on the same moment, what is coming with your Jomudin Quasiasemo? Or Omunis can be free. Oh, it didn't matter. I don't
hear nipa. Nipa ba doctor one. I don't know some pamo. I don't know nipa ba doctor one. Mon cancer mo get nipa. Because you have a when see hear nipa. Or more person ba doctor who nyina so MPP for me patch on me benya abotre. Or more person ba doctor who nyina MPP for. Nti ada nti na munya abotre mo ne o mon kasa odo so ada na won show respect. Na mo ti ho na wo do be ya wo ho say wo ben doctor ana wo kan doctor campaign team ho so wo ye den nti no wo mu nipa wo kasa rough kire nipa team no mesel sa na ema na ekoso no emoa obi o person oba doctor ho bia party ni ba aside that obi oba for obi party ni ba respect masa ye pa ba no nye say ye to aba ma doctor no ba be fa mo de mo akoye vice president o ana ye be to aba ma doctor na mo ma be di party ye ma mo nye da this is jollof mini ho. Doctor doctor said the name in the name of MPP, not in the name of George Kwatin, not in the name of Obia. Into George Kwatin, you're never ye. None me answer how catch it.
So, or more, I say, Doctor. Be in seminal, Sana or Bano, Doctor be in seminal, to Mount Macra. Sajin with you. So, Doctor Dobena. Oh no, Papa no way good one as a Obana, who was upon the good. It is said, oh, no, Mr. Quine Sabaya, woman be beer, Miss almost be
now communicator, it's me and Fakat, we Kumasi be who doctor. Now we drew a woman name who doctor, no, in a dinko, wabra doctor. What the hell is going on there? Moya wine. And I'm say party no, ya de becha moana, Massa, young from Chamo, Mummy na is a banner, ya be quack to your near bro. Doctor Nakasa would do nipa no penipa who musi one my yes see acquaintance one of George then kwase asem na wodi ho Masa munya na mo kire ho no because e mu be ye kan ye ho a e be bloody munya because ye be kwakoto aba
Nana ensema okay senya wo awakukudo a obie no wa bi probet na kasa ensema wo kan da
mutimi kan ya na ensem na party na mon pepa
se eno na ma eno na da bia ye hwehwe ye nya ho to no wo a wo pa mu kase no wo ye party na duro wo ye party na
TNT Rebecca.
Yes, wo ye party
Escobar
na musuru. Man, God, I don't know I'm dibi ma we.
Me kwa me ana me pese nka me kampo. Mpese ko binka. Because me there omo ekwaso na emetan because be me wan say whole party nipa sa amunim no na wunim nipa no na obeba so opese oni doctor di nkomo na mo besi ne kwan mo ye kwan ada doctor o adan na mo yesa mo kan fanse mutiri mu say ye pese doctor mra no medi MPP ani mo nye so obedi nipa kuo kitua bi ani mo Monfa sa adwini ntu mutirim ena ye mma kwan so say monyem adwini say ye doctor ne ye obi ye da doctor aba no abema mo position no mo atena wo de adi nkwala wo dot kwati na woni nipa ntam nya fine na wo so kasa rough na me di adanse no wo no position be no mo de be ma wa wo ba nkwala no be frɛ wa be fi wo mo be di wo mo mpa ansa mo nsu afosu nkansa no mo nkwala no bo na ba so mo nsu ana na wo George de wo ho asɛm papa ba akukura anim wo ye fun sese nsuban
Mra so akwese di wo brekura nko o se mo hwɛ ne bambo se sisi a
we ni ye mu na wo
atan akrai wo mo pɛ bi dia ya akrai ye baba akrai ni ba wo ba so ko be dodo no wo boda ma na so ni so
Fosun cancer there number 1 no on them meeting so anama sole
obi aboku fosun cancer dini eno na bi obi kan say wo sa akwa we enya ono nkwa nipa bebere na eka George wasem George wunni suban mi ankasa wo de bi di me ba me de me keka bi kire o me mfa ho me kan bi kire o me so wo petu ka bo me mfa me ho me de me keka bi kire o ma me hu say yes ma ka kire ma me ho aba me mfa ho ben mo ko asem na mutu amudi na emu amu masa ya moya na mu party MPP ni nyamo de o ene en ka se ye de be mam oti ase anti mu se ade na moto amoya de
o ye ka se na nte kwakura ba ko mienu ase kura o bete so o bu ka se wo nko ko hwe du amran so wo ye wonam enwura mu nam ha mi kura ya na mi so kura ma kura akura he de me ya kura ni se wo de eti akura ye adwuma saa me George wan kasa George Sa George no. One ka mu na wati na wo pictures. Me so ye. Wanya ka mu na wati na wo pictures. Sa George no.
I know if he said many of ya kasa di pa say George one from man so and number me catch her say oh na we need just one feel akwala no kra
one more damn no de to
ya sema kwa George no ye hwan wo betimi aye adwuma na wo ye no betimi aye wo kwa betimi aye sorry na kwaye kwa so na mummu ni pa bia na mo de sisi ho mo ka say you know party ne ye de be che mo hu ana mo adu am say ba wo mi ebenya na mo ma
bedin kwase so mo ba ne
MPP onyamwa
this is MPP na
aya no ebu ade ba wo mi apenipa opepa wo mi hu obi o ye MPP ni a wo do ne se ne ba wo hu akwala wo ye MPP ni a wo do ne se ne ba wo hu grassroots o ye MPP aba wo mi ade akoma mu fine do nipa no enso so wo mo atwa ne ho asia no mo ye hwan ya nipa no ba wo mi apeso obo nipa no kra na mo fa no nkọ ba wo mi akwa mo se da bi
eno ni problem no eno ni problem
ya kasa mi akasa mi ni obi akasa nipa ne say oh jollof me kwa ba bi me srew man so no fa ne number ma George na George fa ne man George me the number ne ma wa anye
wo mo ni na kotal su fo no kwa no mo po mo ne wo ma ye namfu wo mo sha enwura mu tete mikro mu ye aduma ndi wo mo po ma se mo tete wo mo buo mu nkurasefo na mo nim se ne nkurasefo nso ne eto aba no mo de na mo nkra ho vote dudu se ne nya ne nkra ho vote dudu se ne nya ne nkra ho kwase sam nko na mo dwene mo kwase sam nko na mo te ho na mo di
enye nokra ne nka
me the communication good dey bi me ni the communication am person on ko TV so
enwa wakra enemreme ni bia bai obi timi esori anopa se onu di MPP achi agimifo party Ghana jollof
kwasi
kwa ben original no na abua ben
kwasi akwa ma
ya ba wa me se o ma papa de onu omo papa wa kwasi ya che se wo de wa betu wiase
eni jimi na mama kwasi
fo ide mo jimi o te
mama kwasi ampanyini John Muhammad jimi fo a ne yire takafu se bo fro to ato nsuom
eni dada do me ni feli dia kwa dia to me
o ma me wa nya papa we oba ma me nya papa onya papa pa nko nkesa sa o ma me nya papa
na ndisi fo de na me say mo hu jemba miss jemba mo nko na yi ase so de wo se ndisi fo ajimi no mpanyifo no o musu jimi o mo to mama kra de wo ni otwa wo
ajo love jemba oba na wa se tapoli na fa ebu atwa wa ye dade no
de kata na kra butu ne sia na no ma ne sia na no mu ma ne sia na no mu nyina ma o de kra nkasa taga no o mu hwehwehwehwehwehwe wasi asem nko na odi o
ye party le be ye hu adro after 31st ye to aba ni wi a chai ye to aba ni wi dia ye won sema ya tro try be ba be kenkan
Tantana ta fa yem ko opposition ye brani nya ye mamu me
me ya medro no edro no kuma dada won se first no kuma dada no ene na nsen wa ye fe fa sa o mu nyina fa ni nyina sa
now the meswa kakra wo no meswa kakra wo no na ayi o mu ye mu fi na di obo na dana dwene ho na nane no na bese ko na wa free ya ni abro pa ya man kwasi afo maje party ni moso ense na mane man se ense ya dabi masa
kwa se mo binya kwa ka se mfo ni biagum wa bodama na so ni subiru a obi ka se mfo ma ye si ano a wonso ma wo kwa se binya kwa ka kwasi asem ni biaka ho
wan
fa kwasi akotina bi ene sa George ni kwasi asem ma wo to ho die no Woman from where charges it. Woman power prana. Woko hwe doctor yema wonhu.
An party composition kan omo. Na gade ga komo tuo.
Me say anu na Ghana jollof kan doctor na odi ne ho na kasa papa we dey owu nipa oye nipa fakra. Na mo na munyo obia na mo mbo brada na e vote na party mu na de makodudu baabi na hantan bebre no mte se on papa fie o munye hwe enso na mo so mo ya so nkwa edidi
na me Ghana ho na nka me madu campaign office na mo se mo ma me nkuhu ba wo me muti na
ya dolo for the one na IGP kula won to chairman IGP o papa kula be to chairman
ese mini ho